The Frog Prince. This is a story adapted by Pam Schiller. It's from a tale by the Brothers Grimm. It's an old fairy tale, and it's illustrated by Debbie Weekly. The Frog Prince. One fine afternoon, a young princess put on her cape, picked up her favorite toy. It was a golden ball, and she went outside to play. The sun was bright and the sky was clear blue. The princess tossed her ball high up in the air, but she missed catching it because the bright sun got in her eyes and temporarily blinded her. The golden ball landed right in the middle of a pond, and instead of floating, it sank to the bottom, and the princess began to cry. A friendly frog came out of the water and inquired, Princess, what is the matter? Why are you weeping? Now, the princess, she was a little spoiled and she was a little selfish. She was an only child and she didn't know much about being kind to others, especially frogs. Go away, frog, she sobbed. I've lost my golden ball in your pond. It's my favorite ball, and I am very sad. The frog looked at the princess and said, I will get your ball and bring it back to you if you will allow me to live in the palace with you. I will get your ball and bring it to you if you will allow me to live in the palace with you. Look at her face. She's starting to look pretty happy right now. I think she's considering his offer to retrieve her ball for her. Remember from earlier, retrieve means to get something and to bring it back. The princess didn't think that the frog would ever leave his pond, so she quickly agreed to his request. Yes, yes, she nodded. By all means, if you will bring me my ball, you may come and live in the palace with me. So the frog put his head down and he dove under the water. And after a little while, he came up with the ball in his mouth. He threw the ball to the edge of the pond. And as soon as the princess saw her ball, she picked it up. She was overjoyed to have it in her hands again. And she didn't even say thank you. She simply ran home with her ball as fast as she could go. The frog called after her, Princess, don't forget your promise. Take me with you as you said you would. The princess was so delighted to have her ball back that she never even listened to his words. Later that evening, just as the princess sat down to dinner, she heard a strange noise. Tap, 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 splat. Something strange was approaching, and she heard a knock at the palace door. And then a croaking voice called out, Princess, Princess, open the door. Remember your promise, I implore. A home in exchange for your golden ball. You gave your word. You must recall. Uh-oh. That frog is coming to make that princess make good on her promise. The princess ran to the door and she opened it, and there was the helpful frog. Seeing the frog on her doorstep, though, it frightened her. She shut the door and she ran back to the dinner table. How rude. Her father, seeing that she was frightened, asked her what was troubling her. There is a talking frog at the door, she said. He retrieved my ball from the pond this morning, and I told him that he could live here with me in exchange for it. I didn't think he would leave the pond for real. What shall I do? And then a croaking voice called out again, Princess, Princess, open the door. Remember your promise, I implore. A home in exchange for your golden ball. You gave your word. You must recall. Oh, wondering what she's going to do. What do you think she's going to do? Do you think she's going to allow that frog to live with her or not? Hmm. Well, she did tell the frog, if you retrieve my ball for me, you may live with me. And if you make a promise, you should keep it. The king said sternly to his daughter, You have given your word. You must keep it. Just like I thought. Let him in. The princess opened the door, and the frog hopped into the room. Tap, splat, he went right up to the dinner table. I am hungry, declared the frog. And the princess lifted the frog to the table, and she allowed him to eat from her plate. And when he had eaten as much as he could, he said, Now I'm tired. Please carry me to your bed. The princess was reluctant. She was a little scared. She didn't want to do it. But she did as the frog asked, and she placed him upon a pillow where he slept all night long. When morning came, the frog jumped up without a goodbye, hopped downstairs, and went out of the house. The princess thought he was gone for good, but she was mistaken. Because when night came, the process started all over again. She heard that same tapping on the door, and the frog croaked out once more. He asked her to recall her promise that she made in exchange for her golden ball. When the princess opened the door, the frog hopped in, shared her dinner, and slept upon her pillow as before. Morning broke, and the frog disappeared again. This says morning broke. Can morning break? No, that just means morning came. You see the sun shining in the window? On this page it was night, on this page is daytime. That's what morning broke means. The frog disappeared when morning broke. On the third night, the frog visited again and did the same. And when the princess awoke on the following morning, she was astonished. That means so surprised. Because instead of a frog on her pillow, a handsome little boy stood by her bed, gazing at her, looking at her, with the most beautiful eyes she had ever seen. Wait a minute. Did that frog turn into the handsome little boy? I think it did. The boy explained that he was a prince from a neighboring kingdom, and his spiteful fairy had changed him into a frog and declared that he would remain a frog until a princess would let him eat from her plate and sleep upon her bed for 3 nights. That explains it. You, princess, have broken this cruel spell, and now I owe you a great debt, said the young prince. You are lonely. I can come every day to play with you if you like. The young princess quickly agreed. She was delighted to finally have a companion, and she did not have to play with her golden ball every day because she had someone to play with. The next day, and every day thereafter, the young prince arrived in a colorful coach with two beautiful horses decked with feather plumes and golden harnesses. My gosh, he really was a prince, wasn't he? He was a charming companion. He was a good friend for her. And he taught the princess very much about being kind. And in fact, the frog prince and the princess became best friends. And when they grew up, you probably guessed it, they married each other and they lived happily ever after. And that's the story of the Frog Prince. Wasn't that something? If this story reminded you of a fairy tale that you heard called The Princess and the Frog, that's because it's an adaptation of the same story. It's just changed around a little bit. And again, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about changes, and also we're talking about maturing, how important it is to keep your word as you grow old enough to understand that when you make a promise, you should keep it. Until next time, boys and girls, this is Mrs. Harrell reading to you during quarantine learning time.